Hi, I'm Mitchell, and today we'll be doing my first video for Mitchell Mechanics, and we will be discussing how to change the oil on a Kawasaki Kx250f. The tools we're going to need today to change the oil and oil filter on the Kawasaki Kx250f are an oil pan, a socket wrench, a 14mm socket, and an 8mm socket. Our first step in removing the oil from the bike is to grab our 14mm socket and remove the 14mm cap at the top of the bike. Now that we have the top cap removed, we're going to use the same 14mm wrench on the bottom of the engine to remove the 14mm bolt to allow the oil to drain out of the engine. As you can see here, we have our 14mm bolt on the bottom of the engine, and we will use the socket wrench to remove it. Alright, now once we remove the 14mm bolt, the oil starts to flow. The next step after the oil has completely drained out of the bottom of the engine is to put the 14mm bolt back in the bottom of the engine. After we have put the bolt back into the bottom, we're going to use this 8mm wrench on these two bolts here and here to remove the oil filter. After we remove the oil filter cap, we are going to want to remove the old oil filter and replace it with a new oil filter. We can then put the cap back on the oil filter and start tightening down the 8mm bolts. After installing the oil cap back on the bike, I will be filling up the bike with 1.5 bottles of these high-performance engine oils, as the 2008 Kawasaki Kx250f holds 1.4 quarts of oil. After we have put 1.4 quarts of oil into the engine, we will finish off by reinstalling our 14mm cap onto the top of the engine. After reinstalling the oil cap to the top of the engine, you'll want to let your bike run to check for any oil leakage. That is how you change the oil and oil filter on the 2008 Kawasaki Kx250f.